Now, going back to the Shah of Iran, after all his brutal regime, it wasn't until 1974 that Mike Bruce, he on CBS, he interviewed the Shah of Iran and asked him what he reckons the problem in the world would be. He said, he repeated again 3 times, till he said the problem of the world is and will be Israel. And in fact, it's a very interesting documentary. You can Google it, and it was 1974. On CBS, you can actually watch the whole of the interview with Shah of Iran. Well, it wasn't soon after. What happened? They masterminded his removal. Khomeini, who was in Iraq, supported by CIA and so on, brought to Paris. From Paris, went to Iran. The Shah was removed after bloody ending. If you remember, helicopters in main square in Tehran killing thousands of people. The number I'm not really sure. I don't want to quote, but blood was everywhere. And 2 months prior to that, I was myself in the same square in Iran, and I knew was going to start. So I left. Anyway, so that was happened to the Shah of Iran. Then what they did with it, the same people who put him there, their puppet, the little dictator who they admired, and he did all the dirty jobs and all the free oil and so on. They take him to America. They didn't like in America. They sent to Panama. The Panama didn't like him. They sent to Egypt, and eventually with cancer he died in Egypt. Then becomes Khomeini. No, of course, Khomeini, he was a spiritual man. What his government did, and he was the only one in the Middle East who said we have to have two-state position for Gaza, for Palestinians, and peace for everybody. No. That wasn't what Israel wanted. Israel's been working things out in 1940s in order to get rid of not only Gaza, eventually occupy all of Middle East and destroy the whole of Middle East and the rest of the world in their own benefits. And this one has been coming so long, the whole issue of Israel. When you think in 1947, I think it was called King David Hotel in Palestine, they bombed. They bombed it and killed 100 English people in the hotel. And it wasn't then till 1948 that England left them and left all the arms and pitched to the Israelites, Zionists. By the way, if you got to some study on Zionists were terrorists. In 30s and 40s, they were state terrorists, which would blow up everything. They blew up hotels, they blew American Navy ship, and America decided not to actually punish them because there was so much influence in the American policies, in American power struggle. AIPAC, the biggest lobbying group with billions of American taxpayer money, create all the mess in the world. And from that, the Zionists had a long plan. Middle East. Who is the Middle East? It was a state of Palestine, but hardly any of them were Jews. But eventually they started importing Jews from other parts of the world and bring them to increase the number of people. They gave him money and houses and so on. And the terrorist state started growing and growing. So they needed to have the land of the neighbor or the host, which used to love them. And in fact, remember, when Jews came there, they only used identity of Palestinians. They got no identity of Jews. So they used their identity, the people who loved them and fed them and so on. 1948, when Britain left all the arms in Palestine or Jerusalem or wherever it is in that part of the world, the same night they went destroyed 222 villages and killed loads of people and made over 1 million people refugees. That was 1948. From there on, they had a long plan how we're going to control the whole of the world. So what they did, little by little, they started bombing Gaza. It became Camp David, Oslo, and all those things. They have never intention of have peace. They never will have intention to have peace. They are a dreadful race, the Zionists. Zionists, dreadful race. And I'm very sorry what tilted to Jews, but Zionists destroyed the name of the good Jews in the world as well. They are evil, 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 evil terrorist states. Yeah? And all their dirty job is done by the proxy, which is United States of America. Isn't it ironic? A country that powerful, that big, has been manipulated. Not there. Look at our own country, UK. In the Parliament of UK, what they did to Jeremy. Labour Party got rid of him because he wanted two-state position and he wanted peace. No peace, no. They got rid of him. So we are, as a UK, as an old father of all the imperialists, we are part of genocides of what's happening in the past, what's happening today, and what's happening in the future, and would never learn. History repeats itself. History repeats itself over and over and again. Okay, that's our country, UK. And then Israel came, and he said, what we do, I need all to control that one. I got Palestine next to me. I got Syria. I got Yemen. I got Iran. I got Lebanon. All these countries don't like me, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to manage. Started planting, making idiots as some of the Arab countries, so that I can destroy my immediate neighbors. So I started taking like a chess game, one by one. Palestine's out. Before Palestine totally was destroyed, remember the Twin Towers? Who did the Twin Towers? I'm not qualified to make a judgment, but all the signs means that was done by Israel itself. In fact, they filmed 6 Mossad agents filming it just as was falling down, and you can watch again, Google it now, and you can watch those 6. And then FBI got them for months in jail and then released them, obviously, AIPAC. Anyway, so that Twin Towers is a first seed on how to proceed, how to destroy Middle East. What they did then becomes whose fault was it? Well, it wasn't the Arab countries, so the Saudis. Why not? There are all those people who said they were on the planes. They were Saudis who destroyed the Twin Towers. No. It was Afghanistan, famous Afghanistan. Then who was the bad boy? Saddam Hussein, who had arms of massive destructions. Vamos, Tony Blair. Vamos, Bush. Vamos destroy the country. And the same country, if you remember, a few years beforehand, the state of Israel was giving a mosque to every Israelite saying there is bombs coming. Why? It was trying to create that atmosphere, that to fool American and the other race, that Saddam Hussein had arms of mass destruction. And the whole investigation worldwide said no. Saddam Hussein was a nice man, was an evil man as well. But then there was no reason to come with excuse and lie to the world. So Israel's trick is working. So first, let's get my big neighbor, big enemy, Saddam Hussein and Iraq. Okay? And remember prior to that one, what they did? What did they do? Yeah. What they did? America started arming Saddam Hussein, right? Saddam Hussein to teeth, killed 1 million Iranians, most of them with chemical weapons, who was supplied by Germany and Europe. And United Nations never accepted the excuse. And to explain and apologize, they ignored it. That's how the United Nations, and how much these countries who say United Nations resolve our problems got influence. Absolutely dreadful. Stinks, really, the whole world. Anyway, that was the United Nations and chemical arms, and the war almost 10 years. Yeah. And then become Iran-Contra with Nixon, if you remember. With Nixon came about, and then, then after 10 years, they got tired of the war and settled down a little bit. But then Saddam Hussein, they started touching Kuwait, and America said, no, this is the oil company. Yeah, Britain and us is our oil company part. You're not going to Kuwait. They invaded Iraq, killed Saddam Hussein, destroyed Iraq for another 500,000, and they created ISIS. Who created ISIS? Israel, America, and the West. It doesn't exist. Muslims don't kill Muslims. They create this hatred among the Muslims. So created why? They wanted to get rid of. Then the Syria was destroyed. Then Iraq was more or less destabilized and in pieces. And the Middle East was absolutely in a mess. And who was supporting during all this time? justice, peace, love, separate two-state position, Iran. Thank you, Iran. Remember, please, Iran was the only country in the Middle East who supported peace, and Khomeini, they are spiritual people. Khamenei was a spiritual leader of 300 million Shia Muslim. You like it or not, if tomorrow you can kill Pope, what the Catholic people would say? Why did 300 million Shia? He was a man of honor. He said fatwa, which means no nuclear arms in Iran. Everything was bad. He said no to it. And he said peace and love Palestine. But of course, Israel couldn't have it. Israel doesn't want peace. Israel doesn't want two-state position. Israel doesn't want to have neighbors. Israel wants total control first of this part, then become Middle East. And you know what happened in Middle East? The Abraham Accord with first Trump came with Abraham, Accord, which made all Arab countries somehow accept Israelis, all the arms, bases of American military and navy, all of these Arab countries, and sold them millions of worth of arms to these Arab countries, getting their oil back. And what? Every single arms they sold to them, application controlled by United States. So very clever they are. And those very good aeroplanes that Israel had, Saudis a year ago wanted 32 of them. But then Israel stopped Saudis to have those airplanes because only Israel could have those. So what is plan of Israel for the future? Is it Iran or beyond Iran? We come back to that issue a little bit later on. So as we're going through that one, so Iran was a bad boy and was supporting peace and love. So we're going to destroy Iran. So now we have destroyed Iraq. We have totally destroyed Syria. Lebanon is pieces. Gaza doesn't exist. We put in the parking of the whole of the state of Palestine. So it exists. And who is left now for us to start creating our final destruction of the Middle East? Iran. So what they did, they started creating problem with Iran. What they did, they brought their trained Iranian Mossad members, Albanians, and they trained them. They imported, and then 10,000 people came to Iran from all different sides of Iran and tried to put a military police uniform, and they start shooting at the Iranian police. The whole masterminded by Israel got confused, and thousands of God knows how many innocent people got killed in the middle of that. And even the Minister of War of the United States said, I congratulate Mossad for his masterminding this revolution. Oh my God. How dreadful, really. Anyway, so that was the second issue, that Iran now has a revolution, but didn't work quite well. Then start bombing Iran. Iran said, I don't want nuclear. Tried twice. Iran said, negotiate, got to zero nuclear. And Trump said, 14 days you have before we sign agreement. The first night, they attacked Iran, killed the nuclear bases and all the arms. And the second time, we got 10 days. On the 9th day, they invaded Iran and killed Khamenei and rest of us, loads of other Iranian leaders and generals and so on and so on. So this is, so Israel, what is doing now? What is doing? What? American taxpayers spending billions of their pocket monies to play a dirty game for Israel. And American, as usual, a nation which is, which really half asleep, and the nations culturally they're really backwards, and the information they get all fed by through people like Trump, who shout and screams and becomes this horrible man, Mr. Trump, who really has no feeling for anything he does. He's a guy, he's like a little baby. Oh, I want this one, I want that one, I must have that one. And then so what? So what? And his behavior now. What happened in recently in Venezuela? Maduro, whether Maduro good man or bad man, what's got to do with you? He arrested them, and he said, well, Maduro was very easy because all that oil, he said, we make trillions and trillions amount of Venezuelan money is all ours. And now we're going to Iran. So we do a dirty job for Israel. So Israel does what he wants in the Middle East, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to have all the gas and oil. Anyway, so Iran Didn't prove as easy as Venezuela. No, it proved a bit harder. But of course, Iran, with all his energy, armament, and capability, is not in the long run, cannot cope with such a massive powers like United States and Israel, So, but there is no winners in any war, any revolution. We got to learn that one. Yeah. No, but we got to look at the history and learn from the history, because without looking at history, then we get influenced by AI. All our young kids, children, they're sort of, dance in the street in the death of Khamenei, and they pray and shout for a dictator to come and change our country. A dictator, two dictators, yeah? And even with a third one, United Kingdom, who says, is imperialist to come and change country. Well, if Khamenei was a dictator, so why you ask Trump, the biggest dictator in the world, the biggest idiot, the biggest, fucker in the world, to come and change your country? You change it yourself through down, and through proud. You got to be proud of your country. It's your land. Is where you were born, is your culture, is your language, your dances, your music. But what you want? Come, Mr. Trump, put another dictator. Who? Oh, they got the Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. He's got another son in the United States. This guy who has been idle on his life. He's been fed by $5 million from Saudis when his father died. He's absolute idiot who had no political background. He can't read or write hardly, and become another dictator of Iran. Well, you just removed his father, brother. This is the show of Iran. He was a dictator, he was a bad boy. You wanted somebody very good, bring Khomeini there. And now, no, Khomeini is no good either. We got to have the son of the dictator back to Iran. Well, I don't think that will happen, because they possibly cut him into pieces, if he crosses the border, because Iranian who are Iran are proud people. I'm very sorry about you Iranian who live in Canada and the United States and other people who just really, only thing you were worried, including member of my own family who sent this video like that, about exchange rate of dollars and your states in Tehran. You all made fortune out of this government in Iran. And now all live in houses in the United States and Canada, and you wanted to dance with the Khomeinis. There's shame upon you, including my own family, honestly, that I cannot bear to see this one. And where we're going next, God knows. Nobody knows. Bombing people does not help anybody. Killing people does not help anybody. Israel will not change. The only way we can do it, if Israel changes his attitude, and that's not going to happen today. If imperialists like United Kingdom and United States change attitude, that's neither is going to happen today or tomorrow. So we got to sit back and pray, but don't forget the history. Don't forget the history, please. The history is very important. History, past makes the present makes the future. And we just got to pray and educate our children so that their vision changes. God bless you all, and thank you for listening to this long conversation. Thank you.